Could Odell Beckham Jr. actually turn down the Cowboys and the Giants and sign with the Philadelphia Eagles? It was crazy a couple of days ago, and now Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio thinks it's possible. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show on a Wednesday. You're probably saying, Thomas, where's the Sal Paolantonio interview? You promised us yesterday that it would go live today. Well, it is completed. I interviewed Sal Paolantonio yesterday. It's all recorded. It's all edited. Fantastic interview, by the way. Sal gave me like 35 minutes all about Philadelphia, all about the playoffs, some great takes on Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni. He's in the locker room. I mean, really good stuff. But because of this recent revelation from Pro Football Talk, we're going to talk about here in just a second, I pushed the Sal Paolantonio interview to this afternoon. So be sure to subscribe. That's going to go live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, my Sal Pal interview, so stay tuned for that. It's coming just in a couple of hours. All right, I want to jump into what's going on here with Odell Beckham Jr. and why I decided to do kind of an emergency show. It's just going to be the Sal Pal interview today, but now we need to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. because the new report from Pro Football Talk is that you need to watch out for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is counterintuitive to everything we've heard the past week. I told you guys, OBJ to Philadelphia was dead. I gave it a 1% chance. And while it still might be dead, there's no guarantee here. We at least need to go to the PhillyVoice.com article you see up on your screen and explain why we're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. to Philadelphia yet again. So, here is the title. National report on OBJ. Watch the Eagles. Okay, so here's the tweet. Last year, when OBJ free agency sputtered, we said, watch the Rams. As this year's OBJ free agency sputters, I'll say this. Watch the Eagles. And that, of course, is Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. And Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk is in the know. Whether you love him or hate him, he still is one of the more in-the-know national reporters regarding the National Football League. Here's the article. Quote, Beckham had a very good postseason with the Rams last year on their way to a Super Bowl. However, the hype surrounding him has been a little bit out of control. Beckham played in 14 regular season games last year, had 44 catches on 82 targets for 537 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's also still recovering from a torn ACL that he suffered in the Super Bowl. That's the big factor here, as we're going to explain. Jerry Jones recently expressed concerns that Beckham may not be able to help much in 2022, though that could also be a weak ploy to scare away other teams. The Eagles have a very good quartet of receivers in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and Zach Pascal. Adding Beckham would merely be a luxury, but certainly Howie Roseman is always willing to strike if there's an available player who can help, as long as the price tag isn't too steep. Now, this all comes from an ESPN article citing that essentially the Dallas Cowboys have concerns about Odell Beckham Jr., which this could be a 3D chess move, a 4D chess move to bring down the asking price, but it's a very weird move by the Dallas Cowboys. Here it is, I believe, from ESPN. Quote, Dallas Cowboys have concerns after Odell Beckham Jr.'s physical that his recovery from a torn ACL in the Super Bowl has not progressed enough to ensure he would play before mid-January, a source told ESPN's Ed Werder. There's a possibility that signing Beckham, who closed out his 2-day visit with the Cowboys on Tuesday, would have no benefit until the 2023 season, the source added. Beckham underwent a physical on Monday, met with Cowboys owner Jerry Jones and his family, spent the night with Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs at the Dallas Mavericks game against the Phoenix Suns. Asked at halftime what the Cowboys' chances of signing him were, Beckham told ESPN's Todd McMahon, with a big smile, it's a good possibility, end quote. So here's kind of the whole detail. And actually, I asked this in terms of Sal Paolantonio, you'll see on the interview later today. I asked Sal about this all, and he's saying the big problem right now with OBJ, he's not working out. He's getting physicals, right? The doctors are able to kind of poke and prod and, stand here, jump there, but he's not actually running routes on a football field, not actually catching passes, according to Sal Paolantonio, on, an actual football field running full speed. He's not working out, which would kind of add fuel to this fire that OBJ is not going to be ready in time to finish up the season. Because the whole idea with Odell Beckham Jr. is you're signing him for a playoff run. I mean, essentially, you're signing him for a playoff run. Could he play maybe at the end of the season? Sure, but we're only 5 weeks out. It's going to take him time. He's got to get back into football shape because he hasn't played football in almost a year. You think back to February is when he tore the ACL. He has to learn a playbook. He has to kind of build chemistry with the receivers, build rapport with a quarterback. You're really signing him for a playoff run, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I think most teams would take what OBJ did for the Rams last year on their football team, including Philadelphia. But if the reports are saying that he's not going to be ready, then you're wondering, would I want to give Odell Beckham Jr. a 2-year contract when we don't know what he's going to be able to do in 2023? The rental short-term option on OBJ would be fantastic. A long-term leasing deal on OBJ, you kind of go, there are other cars on the market I want to go ahead and look at. So we circle back to the idea of Philadelphia. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that Dallas would be putting this out there to scare away other teams, because other teams can decide for themselves, right? Buffalo can decide for themselves if they think OBJ is ready. Obviously, the Giants can do so as well. But you see the indication that Philadelphia should be a team to watch out for by PFT, because they really have Howie Roseman. And Howie Roseman understands how this stuff all works. If he can wait to the last second and then come to OBJ and say, hey, listen, Dallas is disrespecting you. The Bills have a tough playoff, route with the Chiefs and then the Bengals now. The Giants aren't going to beat us on Sunday. We are 11-1. We're going to be the number 1 seed. We're going to have a bye week, which gives you more time to go ahead and heal that knee. All we're asking is you get ready for a divisional round game, or maybe an NFC championship game, or maybe just a Super Bowl. We have other weapons, right? We don't need you to be a number 2 receiver. You can come in and catch 12 balls for 3 touchdowns, and we'll call you a hero. That is the idea behind this whole ploy to go get Odell Beckham Jr. So let's just wrap it up by saying this. Would OBJ make the Eagles better? I think so. Now, again, health-wise is a whole concern. But would you like to see OBJ stolen away from the Cowboys and Giants just for fun? Sure. Do you trust Howie Roseman to make the right decision? Well, so far this offseason, he's batting almost 1,000. The one time that he didn't do well was the Robert Quinn trade, but it hasn't really affected Philadelphia negatively. It just hasn't benefited them positively. So we're going to stay tuned. We're going to wait and see. This guarantees nothing. He could sign with the Cowboys tomorrow. He could sign with the Giants on Thursday, on Friday. Like, you never know. But it's fascinating to see the Eagles' name thrown back into the ring and Dallas to have these concerns that he might not be ready to go like we originally thought. Okay, before we go ahead and continue, I do want to mention the Sao Paulo interview. It's right here. It's ready to go. I mean, literally, it is all scheduled. I promised you guys it's coming. It's coming later on this afternoon. You see there, 5 p.m. Eastern time, it will go ahead and premiere. A really great conversation with one of the great, legends of the ESPN NFL reporting landscape. He's done a lot of Philadelphia stuff. He's lived close to Philadelphia, but he's kind of an northeast reporter. So he talks about the Giants. He talks about what's going on in Buffalo. It's a really good interview, and I really appreciate him taking the time to come on a show like mine. And so be sure to check that one out and thumbs up for hopefully more big guests in the future. Trying to get big guests every week. It's difficult, but I'm trying for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Also, while we're at it, if you guys want to bet on the Eagles-Giants game, which Paolantonio will be calling on ESPN Radio, by the way, you can do it with our friends at DraftKings. Bet $5 on the Eagles, get back $150 if they win. Pretty darn good deal. You see it on your screen, also linked down below in the description box. All you gotta do is sign up, register and deposit a $5+ money line bet on Philadelphia's next game, which is Sunday, and you'll get it back $150 if the Eagles win in free bets. That's in addition to your winning, so you bet even more. You get, that plus the $150. So not a bad deal right there. Jump in on the betting game with our friends at DraftKings. If you would have done this any other week, minus the Washington week, you're getting back the money. So jump in on this deal and free bets with our friends at DraftKings. Link is down below. Let's wrap up with some NFL national stories and ones that do affect the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is some pretty shocking stuff. We talked about this 2 days ago. Jimmy Garoppolo had a broken foot. He was done for the year. He was probably going to be done as a San Francisco 49er. Classic Big J journalism, reporting a little bit too fast. Nick Wagner, ESPN staff writer, has this article up on ESPN.com. 49ers Jimmy Garoppolo might be okay for the playoffs. This is crazy stuff. Talk about OBJ maybe being ready for the playoffs. How about San Francisco's quarterback being ready? Quote, perhaps San Francisco 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo's season isn't over after all. Sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter on Tuesday that doctors concluded Garoppolo did not suffer a Lisfranc injury to his broken left foot and will not need surgery. That's massive. If his rehabilitation goes well, he has a chance to return in 7 to 8 weeks, these sources said. Potential Garoppolo return, would depend on whether the Niners advance far enough in the postseason. A 7-week timetable would mean a possible return for the NFC divisional round, and 8 weeks would be the NFC championship game. The Super Bowl is 10 weeks away, end quote. And so, 2 ways to think about this. One, San Francisco could very much just try and hold on with Brock Purdy, which they probably can do because it's Kyle Shanahan's offense and they have weapons, they can run the football. But the idea that Garoppolo would come back and be the normal 100% Jimmy Garoppolo is a little bit far-fetched here. So it's fascinating. And it keeps the 49er fans and their playoff hopes very much alive. They're still a very dangerous team. They have a great defense, maybe the best in the league. All that is true. But the idea that Garoppolo could miss 8 weeks and then start in an NFC divisional round, if they got there, is a little bit shocking to me. Because if Brock Purdy gets you to an NFC divisional round, it means he won an NFC wildcard round, which means I would still ride with Brock Purdy. So we'll keep an eye on this. But the fact he didn't actually break his foot, or I should say, didn't have a Lisfranc injury on that broken foot, is really big news for Niner fans and does have an impact in the end. NFC. Finally here, this was some crazy news as of yesterday. I should have seen this coming, but my brain didn't even think about it. Baker Mayfield was claimed off waivers by the quarterback-needy Rams. Sarah Barshop, ESPN staff writer, has the report. Quote, the LA Rams have claimed quarterback Baker Mayfield off waivers. Team announced Tuesday. And the Panthers waived Mayfield on Monday, something interim coach Steve Wilks says was a mutual agreement between the two sides. Wilks said Mayfield asked to be released after finding out he wouldn't be starting quarterback or backup in Carolina going forward. And it talks about how the Rams inherit like $1 million on their whole contract situation. This, to me, is them trying to decide who their quarterback of the future is. Let me explain. There's been talks in terms of Matthew Stafford retiring at the end of this season. He's had some pretty bad concussions recently, and doctors have kind of been weary, according to reports, about him playing again. He's talked to his family, he's talked to doctors, talked to the Rams. It seems to be kind of an untold story right now that you're only getting bits and pieces out of like ESPN over the past couple of days. If he were to retire at the end of this year, the Rams are in big trouble because who's their quarterback, right? They don't have a first-round draft pick to go draft C.J. Stroud because they gave that away, right? This Rams pick is the Lions pick this year. What would have been a top 5 draft pick, they could have gone straight from Stafford to Stroud, is no longer possible. So if you are Sean McVay, you have to then get a second-rate quarterback and revitalize him. And while there are a couple of quarterbacks entering free agency next year, potentially Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield is super cheap. And you get a head start on him, right? Bring Baker in. You got 4 or 5 games left in the NFL season. You can see if him and the Sean McVay system work out really well. If it does, then you re-sign him on a cheap contract, and the Rams are able to continue on with a former number 1 overall pick that Sean McVay really liked, according to reports, way back when Baker Mayfield was drafted. If it doesn't work out, you let him walk, and then you go for Garoppolo in free agency. You go for somebody else in free agency, and you try to move on from Stafford that way. Now, that's, of course, if Stafford were to go ahead and retire, but this seems to be a slight indication that they're leaning that way. And hey, I mean, it can't get much worse than the current quarterback play that they've had over the past couple of weeks, because they have just been absolutely atrocious. You know, John Wolford was starting, one of these games. They had Bryce Perkins, I believe, was a third-string quarterback. I mean, a lot of bad stuff going on for the Rams. They bring in Baker Mayfield, and, maybe we'll see what happens. Could be fun. Will he start tomorrow? Probably not. It's a lot to learn, but he could. I mean, Sean McVay's offense. Some say it's very quarterback-friendly. So there you go. All right, I want to jump on here. Give you the full rundown on the OBJ stuff. Again, it's hard to break down a single tweet where it goes, watch for the Eagles, but I think Florio knows something a little bit more than we do, and I'd be shocked if Howie hasn't at least picked up the phone to make a phone call and be like, hey, OBJ, I see they're talking trash about you in Dallas. Do you want to actually win a Super Bowl again? Come on down to Philadelphia. Crazier things have happened, and I want to give you guys the update on that. So, thumbs up, subscribe, stay tuned for Sao Paulo. It's coming up in just a couple of hours, 5 p.m. I want a lot of you guys to watch that. That way we can get more people on the show, and plus it's a great interview. I thought it was a really fascinating conversation with the ESPN reporter, so stay tuned for that. I'm Thomas Mott. See you guys.